What's up YouTube? I'm here doing my prediction video for UFC Fight Night RDA versus Edwards. Let's start at the bottom. The first fight is Domingo, can't say his last name, versus Felipe Corrales. Felipe didn't impress me in his UFC debut. I feel like his striking and grappling were not that great. I feel like even though he was undefeated coming into the UFC, he must have fought a lot of not very good people because the guy he fought had just an okay record and he demolished him everywhere. I think Domingo has better grappling, especially the striking might be close, but if Domingo gets this to the ground, I think he just fucks up Felipe. And he is primarily a grappler, so I see that happening. So I got Domingo either winning by first or second round submission, probably like a rear naked choke. Next we got Mario Bustamante versus Jin Soo Son. To me, Mario looked impressive in his debut, even though he was kind of losing the whole fight. I felt like he showed good striking and good grappling. Like, I mean, even though he was losing that whole fight and got submitted, he was never not in the fight, you know what I mean? He was constantly a threat and constantly fighting. I think Jin, you know, we saw in his UFC debut too, he took, on a super short notice, he fought the Russian dude who's undefeated. And he showed good striking, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, good conditioning for a guy taking the fight on super short notice. It's really tough because I've only seen both these guys in one fight, and they both looked the same in the sense that they were losing the fight, but they put up amazing fights. You know what I mean? They were losing the whole fight until they lost. Jin lost by decision. And that's why I'm slightly leaning towards him, just because I saw more of him. I feel like, especially his striking looks better than Mario's does. On the ground, Mario's probably a little bit better wrestler, but I think Jin's a little bit better with his jiu-jitsu. I think the striking is going to be the difference. I think Jin's a little bit better of a striker, so I think he's going to edge it out there and get a decision. Next is Ray Borg versus Gabriel Silva. And to me, Gabriel Silva is primarily just a striker. He has some jiu-jitsu, but he's mainly just a striker. He's probably a little bit bigger than Borg, but sorry guys, I've been sick for like a week. I don't know what it is, but hard to talk. I'm leaning towards Borg. I just think his wrestling is going to be too much in this fight. I don't know if he'll be able to submit Gabriel Silva with his rear naked choke, but I do think he's going to control the majority of the fight and probably win by decision. Next is Roxanne Modafferi versus Jennifer Maia, and I feel like Roxanne's just better everywhere. I think Jennifer might be a little bit better of a boxer, but I think anywhere on the ground, Roxanne's better. And I think Roxanne's just overall ability is better than Jennifer's. I think she's going to either grind out a decision or get a submission. Next we got Sam Alvey versus Kidson Abura. To me, Kidson is just a jiu-jitsu guy. He has a little bit of striking, but overall he's just okay. I feel like Sam Alvey overall is better. I think his takedown defense and his striking are better than Kid's offense and his striking. I think sooner or later Sam's going to catch this guy with a big punch and win by knockout. Next we got Raquel Pennington versus Irina Aldana. And Irina's looked good recently. She's won 3 straight. She's looked better in all of them. Raquel, it's tough to tell where she's at because she looked amazing going into her fight before her injury. Like, she won like 4 or 5 in a row, and she looked amazing in all of them. She looked like she was getting better and better. And then she was injured, out for like 2 years. And then her last 2 fights, she really doesn't look like how she used to. I don't know if that was ring rust or if she just wasn't 100% going into those fights. I do think she's better than Aldana, but this is the fight that's going to tell us whether Raquel is still good or if that injury just fucked her up for the rest of her career. Because in all honesty, like I said, she didn't look that great in her last 2 fights. So I'm hoping she goes back to normal. She looks the same how she did before the injury. And if she does, I think she'll win by decision. So I got Raquel Pennington winning by 30-27 decision. Next is Alex Caceres versus Steven Peterson. And these 2 guys are pretty similar. They're like strikers with jiu-jitsu and some decent takedowns offensively and defensively. I just think Alex Caceres is better everywhere. I think he's more athletic. The only difference is I think Peterson's a little bit better with his jiu-jitsu, but unless he straight up takes Alex's back, I don't think that's going to be a big issue in this fight. Like I said, I think Alex's striking and overall like physique and kind of athleticism are better than Peterson's. I think he should be able to stay on top of Peterson if it goes on the ground. And I see Alex Caceres winning all 3 rounds, so I got him winning by 30-27 decision. Next is Andre Arlovski versus Ben Rothwell, and this is entirely kind of who makes it their fight. If Andre can kind of keep this on the outside and just outbox him for 3 rounds, he'll win. And if Ben can kind of close that distance like how he does and just make it a brawl, he'll win. I feel like Andre Arlovski's been fucked over a lot recently. I think other than one of his last 4 fights, he's won 3 of them. I feel like he's been getting a lot of really shitty decisions going against him, especially his last fight. Like, the last fight he had was the worst one by far. Like, he outstruck that guy close 2 to, like, by, I don't know if it was 2 to 1, but it was pretty fucking close for the first 2 rounds. I mean, he lost the third, but it was like, I don't know how you gave those first 2 rounds not to Arlovsky. I mean, it's just ridiculous how many decisions recently have gone against him. In fights that I clearly thought he didn't even fucking were close. And I think he's going to fight the same way. I think Ben is a little bit predictable, and I think Arlovsky will be able to kind of dance around him for 3 rounds. And that's just what I see happening. I think Arlovsky wins all 3 rounds. As long as he doesn't get fucked by the judges again, he should be able to win this fight. Next, we got Alexander Hernandez versus Francisco Trinaldo, and this is kind of who can get it where. If Francisco can keep it on the feet, I think he wins. If Alex can kind of do what he does, which is mix in the striking and the wrestling, he'll win. It's tough just because I haven't seen Francisco fight in a while. I do think he's a little bit better. You know, Alex, I think he's fighting another really experienced guy a little too soon. I'm really on the fence about this one because I think they're about even. It's really just kind of can Francisco stop the takedowns, because if he can, I think his striking is a little bit better and he'll win by TKO maybe. But if Francis can mix in the takedowns, I think he'll wear Trinaldo down and maybe win by rear naked choke late. It's kind of just what you think who's going to do what. And I'm slightly leaning towards Francis. I think his takedown defense will be good enough to keep it on the feet. And I do think his striking is better, so I think he's either going to win by late TKO or by decision. Next, we got James Vick versus Dan Hooker. And to me, these two guys are very similar. I just think Dan Hooker's the better striker. They're both primarily strikers with some jiu-jitsu, but like I said, I think Dan Hooker's just better. I think Vic is more technical, but Dan just hits harder, and his overall technique is, you know, I don't know how to put it. I feel like James Vick is better at staying away, and Dan Hooker is better at making a fight, I guess. That's the best way to put it. And I feel like Dan Hooker is just going to be able to pressure Vic and land shots on him whenever he wants. I think on the ground it would be closer, but on the feet, I just think Dan Hooker is going to catch him eventually. So I'm leaning towards Dan. I think he wins by second round knockout. Next, we got Greg Hardy versus Juan Adams, and to me, this fight's pretty fucking nuts in terms of the UFC. Like, they're putting Greg Hardy against a guy that, in my opinion, is way better than him. I mean, Juan Adams, even though he lost to fucking what's-his-face, that guy was like an Olympic wrestler. You know, he trains with Daniel Cormier every day. And he didn't even look horrible in that fight. He was stuffing a good chunk of takedowns and landing his own strikes. I mean, he got out-wrestled a little bit, but it was like, against an Olympic wrestler, that's not a horrible thing. You look at his other 5 fights, and he's fucking dominated everyone he's fought. I feel like Greg Hardy, especially in the wrestling, is at a major disadvantage. I think if Juan really tried to take this to the ground, he could take it down whenever he wants. He has great wrestling in his own right. He just doesn't have the same level as... It's Arjun Bowler, I forgot his name, but... Like I said, Arjun Bowler's like an Olympic level. This guy's like super high-level college wrestler. You know, Juan Adams is an amazing wrestler in his own right. I think they're pretty fucking crazy. I think if Greg Hardy doesn't catch him like right off the bat, I think Juan's going to eventually take him down and just beat the shit out of him for the whole round it lasts. And that's just what I see happening. I think Juan's going to win by TKO in the first round. Next, we got Alexei Oleinik versus Walt Harris. And this is essentially just, can Walt catch Alexei before Alexei takes him down? It's kind of like when Masvidal fought Askren. You know, I feel like if that fight got to the ground, Askren's probably going to win, but if Masvidal could catch him before that, he would win. It's kind of the same thing, but I just don't think Walt is as good as Masvidal. I think that Alexei has better striking than Ben did, so he can kind of hang with Walt on the feet as long as he needs to until he can get it to the ground. And that's what I see happening. I think they'll strike a little bit until Alexei can pull it down, and then when Alexei pulls it down, I think he's going to win by submission. So I got Alexei winning by first round sub. Finally, we got RDA versus Leon Edwards, and I think this fight's going to be exactly like RDA's last fight. I think it'll be back and forth for a while, and I think eventually RDA is going to just wear Leon down and get on top of him and win by like arm triangle or something like that. I don't think Leon has a huge advantage anywhere, except for maybe length. You know, overall striking technique, they're about the same. Wrestling, they're about the same. RDA definitely has a huge advantage in jiu-jitsu. Anywhere this fight's on the ground where it's a submission attempt, he's way better. And like I said, I also think RDA's got a big advantage in conditioning. Leon's never had amazing conditioning. He's gotten better at pacing himself, but his conditioning's still just okay, in my opinion. I think this will be just like how he fought Kevin Lee. It'll be really close up until Edwards starts to get tired, and once that happens, I think RDA will get on top of him and win by arm triangle. Probably in the fourth, just like his last fight. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.